What do we have to do to make things thrive? Not just survive, but thrive. Let's go. Let's go to space. Hey everybody, it's Tim Alatorre here with Rhonda Stevenson. Welcome to Fridays with Orbital Assembly. Rebranded from Fridays with Tim because we got Rhonda here today with us, which is fantastic. Thanks for being here, Rhonda.
You bet. And thank you for everybody who could make the call today.
Yes, absolutely. We got a few people in here, and for those who missed this, we are going to be putting this on our other platforms, so you'll be able to watch this later. But thanks for being here live. We will be taking your questions at the end. And so as you have those, feel free to drop them in the chat, and we will work through what we have time for. So to start off with, Rhonda, why don't you kick us off and talk about our partners and customers, where we're at?
Sure, you bet. It's been a very active and busy year. We have been able to add over 60 partnerships by way of customers, partners, and vendor providers. And in building those relationships, it's given us significant heft in our ability to execute on some near-term objectives, which are to finish our design and engineering for phase one of Pioneer Station and to purchase some very significant pieces of hardware. And just to kind of give an overview of some of those partnerships, they include Paragon Space Development Corporation. They build the ECLS system and the life support systems for the International Space Station. We are partnered with them for that same product for our stations. Another that you can be looking forward to is an announcement will be going out very soon that we partnered with Dr. Mae Jemison, astronaut that you all may be very, very familiar with, and Dr. Ronki Olbisi at UC Irvine. And we worked with them to produce a compilation review of artificial gravity and what that means for the future for sustained human habitation. And in addition to that, with many of these partnerships, what we've been able to achieve are specific quotes and not ROM figures or rough order of magnitude figures for the costs on the development of our stations. And so when we say we can do, X for this much, they're not rough order of magnitude estimates, they are specific quotes. And so that's been very beneficial for us in budgeting for these first pieces of hardware that we're looking forward to purchasing. And in addition to that, we've added quite a few members to our advisory board that we're very excited to have. And with that, I'll have Tim go over some of the new customer partnerships that we have.
Yeah, so we've talked about those on previous segments, and we've sent out some press releases, but we keep adding to the list. So when we launched the Net Capital raise, we're live on the Reg CF platform right now. I think we launched it last week. We had gone through and we had 19 customers. We're now at 20 customers. So, and there's many more in the pipeline. They're going to keep coming through. We've talked in the past about Micromeat. We're really excited about them. They're developing hardware for, it's really protein synthesis, but the primary application is cultivated meat products. So chicken, beef, things like that. And then another company we're working with right now, it's called Shipshape Urban Farms. And we haven't made an announcement about that yet. That's a new one within the last couple of weeks. And we're working with them on an agricultural side to develop greenhouses in space. And so the combination of plant growth and protein growth really starts to round out the complete diet, not only for those in LEO, but also on other surfaces such as the Moon and Mars. And what's really exciting about that is both these companies have terrestrial markets right now. They're selling their systems to terrestrial customers, and our space technologies are going to feed back into their existing markets, improving their efficiencies and bottom lines. So it's a win-win, pushing the frontier, but also helping to improve access to food here on Earth, which is exciting. We're also talking with some big data providers, which we can't name names yet, but if you think about cloud computing, There's a couple of main players in that world, and we've been talking with them about hosting their payloads on Pioneer Station. There's a lot of interest there. We're working on right now what the specifics of that look like, how much rack space, all the financial side of that piece. So hopefully those announcements will be coming soon as well. So moving on from our partners and customers, which we're really excited about, as I mentioned, we are live again on the Reg CF platform, and there's been a lot of comments and questions about the information we disclosed leading up to that raise. There was an announcement, I think, that went out the day before or the day of the launch of the raise. And I just want to tell you all that we hear you. I've talked with a lot of you on the phone. We've replied to a lot of emails, been trying to be as active and transparent as we can on the Net Capital discussion board. So just kind of a recap, we did this last year, re-domiciled the company to Delaware. Majority of public companies and startups are operating out of Delaware. It's a very business-friendly environment, both from a tax and a regulatory standpoint. And in that process, we also restructured the cap table to allow us to raise the significant capital that we need to get to space. In that process, we've really been hindered by the structure of the investment system and the regulatory environment around the Reg CF platform. So Net Capital specifically has restrictions on what we can do with them, and then just the Reg CF restrictions with the SEC have limited us. So there was a dilution event, and we did do a reverse stock split. The reverse stock split doesn't affect the value per se, right? It's more of a mathematical piece. The devaluation through the dilution, that is something that we're very aware of. And so we have been, so I should say the dilution really is part of future-proofing the company and allowing us to raise more capital. And, for those of you who invested, I've said this in messages, we're looking at a long-term perspective here, and we ask for your patience as we move through this process, ask you to hang tight, stick with us. We are grateful to you and do not take for granted the fact that you came on early and were part of the people who got us to where we're at. There's a lot that we've been able to do over the last 12, 18 months that was made possible because of you. And I think there was a comment in here where someone said, Russ said, thanks for letting us non-needle movers continue to attend. You have moved the needle, whether you invested $100 or $10,000, $50,000, you've moved the needle. And so we are very aware of that. We have continually for the last couple months been trying to figure out how we can bring you along with us and not have you carry the majority of the burden really of the necessary steps that startups need to take. And so we have been, this week continuing to be in multiple conversations with our legal counsel, with the Net Capital team, looking for options and things that we can do to lessen that burden that really the Net Capital platform has kind of put us into this box. And so again, we just ask you for your patience, perspective, and we have not forgotten about you. We are very grateful for you. I'm not sure if there's anything else you want to add to that piece there, Rhonda.
The only thing that I would also add is to say thank you for your continued patience in the time that it's going to take to communicate and update you. It's a process that involves a lot of different moving parts. It's not necessarily just a one person or one entity decision. And so as we have updates, we will absolutely share them. And we've always been very good about having an open accessibility forum where if you do have questions, if there are things that you would like to address with us, we've been available.
Yeah, and we try to make ourselves available as much as possible. I mean, if you call and you get a message, Rhonda and I in particular are in meetings from like sun up to sundown. Like we're in a lot of meetings, and so I try to call people back when you leave messages as quickly as possible. Sometimes you're lucky and you get through to me, and I pick up the phone. If you call the Orbital Assembly phone number or you email me, you're gonna reach me. It's just a question of how quickly I can respond. So we do try to do that. And there was a question in here, Keith asked about the CARTA 409A analysis that was mentioned in the audit reports. Typically, Keith, those are confidential. They're fair market value assessments. They don't have necessarily a direct impact on the equity price. It more comes into play when we're looking to resale and when there's a market for the sale of the stocks. So the 409A evaluation comes more into play on our side with the back end with employees as we're looking for stock options and setting the option price for those options. So I'm not sure if I can't authorize releasing that, but we'll talk about that with the board and see what they're comfortable with. And yeah, I mean, and I would say Keith in particular, you and I have talked on the phone. We really value your feedback, and all of you really. So thank you for that. And also to your other comment, Keith. Yeah, and any and all questions, we'll get to what we can today. Okay, whoops, sorry, I didn't mean to take you off the Rhonda. Wrong button. Okay, so next, CBERS and SITRs, fun acronyms. Rhonda, you want to talk about those?
So as I said, it's been a very, very, very busy year. And so in addition to pursuing commercial partnerships with future customers, we are also pursuing partnerships with government agencies, including the Department of Defense. That would include AFRL, Air Force Research Lab, Navy Research Lab, DARPA. And part of that has been putting forth an enormous effort in submitting many SBIR and STTRs for phase 1 and for direct to phase 2s. Out of that, we have recently submitted another volley, and those responses are still outstanding. And we have several MOUs that we have received from Air Force Research Lab for these direct to phase 2 opportunities. So we're really looking forward to being able to participate meaningfully in the near term with our technologies with these institutions. I would say that in addition to that, we're also pursuing loans, long-term loans. There's a Department of Energy loan that we've participated in, as well as opportunities for infrastructure, and we just continue to explore all avenues to participate in the near-term space economy and space development.
Yeah, the DOE in particular is an interesting one because the Department of Energy's got a number of initiatives they're trying to fulfill, and there's a lot of crossover between what we're doing orbitally and what's happening on the ground, and crossover in technologies. So that's something we are actively pursuing. And maybe we should probably explain what CBER and SITR are for those who don't know. So CBERs are Small Business Innovation Research Grants, and SITR, you're gonna tell me off that one. That's small. What is it, Rhonda? It's more of the research side.
Right, and it's for academic institutions. So you partner with academic researchers, and together you produce a proposal. Typically, those are smaller awards, but it's also very good to be engaged with the academic community.
Yeah, Small Business Technology Transfer. That's what that stands for. So the CBERs in particular are really interesting, and why we're pursuing those is because they are gateways and doors into the world of DoD contracts. So there's a number of different phases you go through. Each one has increasing amounts of funding attached to them, and the end result is being a vendor for the DoD. So we have had quite a bit of interest from a number of different organizations, and pursuing those.
The Space Agreement Act.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Actually, I didn't mention that earlier. So we're located in Huntsville. We've had a number of conversations for the last couple of months with, really for the last year with Marshall Space Flight Center. The last couple of months in particular, working on negotiations for what a collaboration between us and NASA would look like. There's a lot of, there's really broad interest here at Marshall with what we're doing. And and there's a lot of interest in working with us. And so we're working on Space Act Agreement drafts and some different, there's, I don't know, 5 or 6 different mechanisms in which we can work with NASA. So that's in process. And we were hoping to have an announcement last month, but government agencies work a lot slower than we do. So it's in process. Okay, so product offerings. For those of you who were paying close attention to the pitch deck we added to the Net Capital site, you saw a few additional graphics that weren't there in prior raises. So just wanted to give a quick overview here of where we're at with our product offerings. So on the right-hand side here of this slide, you see Voyager Station. That's our flagship project, which we've been promoting for years now and working on the development for. But we're not going to get to Voyager this year. We're stepping it back to all the incremental steps to get there. So moving from right to left, we've got Voyager, then we have Pioneer Station. A precursor to Pioneer is what we're calling our station in a box, and that is that smaller station you see in the middle there. That's a single module station which can be launched in a single launch, and it's a fully operational free-flying station. Then that becomes the backbone to larger Pioneer Station configurations. So there's a lot of interest and excitement in that station in a box concept. We do have some customers that we're in conversations with right now who want to just buy their own station outright. And that's something that's ongoing. To the left of that, we have our CubeSat rack format architecture. So there's a lot of companies who are interested in doing work on space. They're not wanting to buy their own station, but they want to host payloads and do experiments. CubeSat format has really taken over the industry. There's a lot of companies who are familiar with that format. And so we've developed a rack system that allows a large number of companies to do different CubeSat format work on Pioneer Station and similar architectures. So we're working right now with a number of customers who are interested in leasing rack space. Some are interested in taking up entire racks, some just partial racks. And we're filling out the payload complement of the first orbital assembly owned station through some of these offerings. And then, as mentioned previously with some of the DoD and CBER work, we haven't forgotten our truss building technology. The STAR platform is capable of producing straight trusses or other form factors of trusses today. We could build that and launch that if there was a commercial interest. And so we are working on concepts using the truss architecture as different deployment and payload hosting platforms. These would be automated, uncrewed platforms that could operate anywhere in the cislunar environment. So that's something that's continuing to be in development. And then on the very far left side, there is a single module. We are selling our modules, and there's some interested parties who are wanting to just buy a module that we would then be put on other people's space stations or potentially on Pioneer or Voyager. And we've branded that the Oasis module. And those are for sale today. So if you or a friend wants to buy a module and drop it on ISS or Orbital Reef or any other station, give us a call because we are actively selling those right now. So as you can see here, our product offerings have expanded quite a bit. These are the space technologies. And as I mentioned, also some of the sub-component technologies have some terrestrial applications, which we are working on some different licensing agreements right now. So that is that. And then there was a question about roadmap. So I think someone had asked, Dolly 0909 asked, is the initial ring assembly launch still on schedule? So I've talked about this previously, but not everyone hangs on every word, so I'll reiterate. We've actually this last year had a significant breakthrough with Pioneer Station, and we are not needing to do the ring truss. We can jump right to constructing Pioneer Station. So that's where the station in the box concept comes in. That will be our first significant launch. That would be the single module station in the box, and we can build Pioneer right off of that. So the truss technology and the ring truss technology, we're actually hopping over that. The capital we're raising right now through our larger investment rounds is to start fabrication on flight hardware for Pioneer, not for the demonstration ring truss. And as I mentioned earlier, this is kind of our timeline here of where we're at. We had 19 customer MOUs and LOIs as of a week ago. We're up now to 20 and increasing. This year has been kind of slow on the hardware side, and I know everyone likes to see cool pictures of stuff, but we've been really working on the financial pieces and the business development that will then make all the hardware happen quite quickly.
We wanted to be able to demonstrate revenue in the near term, and so we had to take the steps to build those relationships to be able to demonstrate that.
Right. Yeah, we once we have the first asset on orbit, things are going to change dramatically from a financial situation. It's just getting that first incremental piece. And then just to plug, we are continuing our Future in Space podcast. That happens, episodes are released every Monday on podcast platforms. The episodes are recorded live sporadically as Jeff and Eric book guests, but just a reminder for that. And then we are currently raising equity, selling equity, raising funds. So we have 2 rounds open currently. We have our Reg D round open, which is for accredited investors. And there's been quite a bit of interest in that, and we're continuing to talk with investors. And in that round, we are it's by invite only. If you're interested, reach out to us. You can go to orbitalassembly.com/invest, and there's a form you can fill out there, or email Rhonda and I, and we can get you the term sheets and all of the documentation and additional financials related to that. The due diligence and documentation side on the Reg D side is a bit different because it is with accredited investors. And then we just reopened a Reg CF round on Net Capital, and that's open to anybody. Anyone's allowed to invest there. And you can go there today. You can get to that by going to orbitalassembly.com/invest, and then that will take you over to the raise there. And with that, we'll open it up to questions. So we've got here, I'll just start up at the top. We've been answering a lot of these have been going along. But so John's asking, he'd like to hear a bit more about variable gravity. Pioneer Station, that's the place for variable gravity. Pioneer is designed to be a multi-mode station. We call it our hybrid gravity station. So it can go anywhere from microgravity up to a little past half of G. And it's really designed to be more of an industrial facility and test bed for technologies headed to the moon and Mars. Voyager is a much bigger station with a much higher population count. So that's designed to be at a consistent rotation rate. Right now, the plan is at lunar gravity, but Pioneer would be the place for variable gravity. I'm not sure what else you want to hear about that, John. We could get pretty technical or talk about use cases. Drop something in chat if you want to know more. Let's see here. Aiden's asking, with regards to Pioneer Station, is the truss assembly robot complete or any other aspects complete? So I touched on that a little bit, Aiden. So we don't need the truss assembly robot for Pioneer Station. We are moving right to the station in a box, the first phase. And as far as aspects that are complete, so the system architecture is complete. We have a user manual, a user guide that we've been distributing to customers, and we have a number of agreements in place with our vendors to start fabrication. There's no significant hardware yet. That's the next piece here. And that feeds into Dolly's problem. Keith has another question about valuations, and we can talk about that more offline. The valuation conversation is a tricky one when we're at this phase of a startup. There's a lot more subjectivity to it than hard math until we start to have revenue and a lot of capital. And let's see, the last question here from, I'm not sure how to say that, MRKRBN, Merk Birkin, maybe. He's asking, will Pioneer Station still rely on the truss builder, or is that not necessary with the new module design to snap the modules together? Well, not quite snapping the modules together, but we don't need the truss for Pioneer, which is a major technological breakthrough. And, oh, Marco, perfect. Thanks, Marco. And it also simplifies the mission ops quite a bit. And as of those of you who've been following our truss design and the star technology for some time, making straight trusses is relatively easy. The physics and control mechanisms to close that loop and reconnect the back end is it's a non-trivial engineering problem. We worked with Arizona State University this last year to do some simulation modeling, and we're able to find some really great solutions through their assistance on some of the dynamics and different vibration modes. But it's a high risk situation that we're having to manage that risk very carefully. So being able to eliminate that truss, the ring truss, and go straight to Pioneer without it saves it saves a couple missions. So you get launch cost savings, and then a lot less risk on the mission ops, and less cost for hardware that you're having to fabricate. But the Star platform is ready to go. Like I was saying, we could build that tomorrow. It's a great design, and we're looking for other use cases for that. Okay, well, I think we're at the end of the questions there. If there's no other in chat, Rhonda, do you have any final thoughts as we wrap up here today?
There were a couple of pieces, and I don't want to spend too much time on talking about government institutions as customers. But we have had the opportunity to brief Space Force. I did go to the Pentagon and brief Space Force, and we are in discussions with the Office of Science, Technology, and Policy, and I will be going there very soon to brief them on Orbital Assembly, where the National Security Agency will also be present. And the reason why I feel it's important to mention is one of the things that we have witnessed over the last year is a significant increase in the interest of the applications of artificial gravity. And about a year ago, it wasn't in as much of discussion. As we grow our narrative on artificial gravity, you will see that the space environment, the space realm as a whole, is now beginning to turn a little bit more focus on artificial gravity as a priority. And so we are in the forefront of that discussion, and I'm really looking forward to furthering our conversations.
Yeah, and I think like you mentioned, so you were at the Pentagon. You're heading back to DC to brief which organization? I'm blanking on the name.
Office of Science, Office of Science, Technology, and Policy.
Thanks. And then last week, Tom Spilker, our CTO, was in DC with all of the science and technology heads of NASA, briefing them on what we're doing. So there's a lot of interest. We are getting repeated requests to come and fill the national leaders in on what we're doing. And it's just a question of, getting all the pieces to align before things really start to move. And we're really on we're on that precipice right before we start to hit our stride and run. There's a couple of additional questions here. I'll just get real quick, then we're out of time here. But Mark was asking, are we fabricating the modules, or will these be orders to another vendor? So as Rhonda mentioned earlier, with our partners, we are using flight heritage legacy hardware vendors who've been there, done that, had stuff on orbit, things with very high TRL, high technology readiness level. So our modules are being produced by a vendor who has put modules in orbit. They've got things on ISS. They've sent it around the solar system. So they can get things done quicker, cheaper, faster, better than it would take for us to develop those skill sets in-house. And then there's also just the reliability factor. We don't have to go through and prove to NASA and other organizations that this hardware is, all the testing. It really is what drives up costs and timeframes. So. And then Aiden's asking about, is it possible or beneficial to place a station at a Lagrange point? Yeah, absolutely, on both those. And it's not something that we've ignored. We've had conversations about that. Again, it's really the market case and use case for that.
Aiden, I would say that is true, not only for cislunar, but also, eventually going to Mars and needing to have that gravity test bed for functionality on Mars.
Right. Yep. Well, yeah, I'll just end by saying thank you so much for being here. This was an invite-only event for our upper tier investors, and I know, Rhonda and I are just two of the faces here, but there's an entire team of people here that we're saying thank you on their behalf. So thank
Absolutely.
you for being here. Thank you for your investment. We value you, and we're working every day to maximize your return on your investment and make this dream a reality. So, okay, with that, we will be doing another Q&A next Friday. So if you have other questions, tune in then, and we look forward to talking to you soon.